Earth, our home, incubator of life, through our lines of life.
Hi, I'm Luminous Star. Welcome to my channel, Luminous Star. For you all who are current subscribers, you know why you're special to me. Mwah! You are my stars, and thank you so much for motivating me to keep my channel active. If this is your first time visiting Luminous Star, welcome. And everyone who's tuned in today, thank you for tuning in, and I wish you the very best wherever you may be at this very moment. Yeah, right now. All right. Now, this video today is going to be a little, some may find it a little controversial. I want to go ahead and forewarn you before beginning with the video that certain scenes as well as some information is going to be quite disturbing. So I want to go ahead and start the video off with that. Okay? For you all who are going to continue to join me, thank you. And for those of you who choose to go ahead and check out some other videos of mine in the video archive, thank you as well. All right. Today's video is going to be about demonic possession and demonic influence. Okay? So, having said all that, thank you again for joining me. Take very good care of yourself, and I wish you the very best. Mind the description box below for further details as well as information pertaining to this video. Thank you so much. Now let's get started with the video. Okay, so I want to go right into some of the characteristics of the cluster B personality. Okay, and those who are perceived as narcissists or who may have been labeled as narcissists. Some of the characteristics that narcissists are notorious for are being bullies. Okay? They behave as people who are very defiant, okay, hateful. And they love to accuse others. Usually when it's, false. They like to falsely accuse others. And they lack foresight. They usually don't learn from their mistakes. They tend to be very argumentative and predatory in their nature. Okay, very irresponsible, seductive, and sometimes they can even be charismatic. Sometimes they are very critical, judgmental, and they can behave or act like the authoritarian. Okay, very manipulative, spiteful, and rageful. Okay, very neurotic. These are some of the characteristics of the cluster B personality. And I don't think I should leave out the fact that it has been found that a lot of those who have a cluster B personality, they can be very deceptive. They tend to not be able to help themselves when it comes to being deceptive. So they lie compulsively. I don't want to leave that one out. All right, so those are just some of the characteristics that we know of when it pertains to the cluster B personality, i.e. the narcissist. I want to go back and talk about a particular point that I made earlier. All right, so I want to just touch on the gateway. Okay, the gateways, and some are talking about how they start to experience things in their families that seem to have them thinking that they're cursed. Okay, all right, so such as sexual molestation. That's one that some have referred to as having a generational curse, or in other words, this is a gateway. A gateway is how some have come under the demonic influence. Because see, in order for a person to be demonically influenced, there has to be a gateway. And sometimes some people have mentioned, okay, in conversation, and I'm going off of some of the information and the testimonies of others, okay, that I've heard. Others have mentioned about generational curses, again, such as incest. That can be referred to as a generational curse. Sexual molestation and other types of abuses that go on in dysfunctional families. Some have referred to the generational curses as a gateway for demonic influence. Okay, so when some people have referred to the generational curses, this is what they were talking about. These type of things just seem to happen from generation to generation, and it doesn't seem to go away. So I just wanted to mention that. In order for demonic influence to take place, usually there has to be a gateway. All right? There has to be a gateway. So let me go ahead and go into just a few definitions here. One definition I want to go over is influence. What is influence? Influence is to affect, impact, or control. Even to have mastery and authority. Okay, so that's an influence. And let me go ahead and break down a particular example that I have about that. So influence, especially when it comes to demonic influence. Okay, so to be influenced by something or someone, that means that they have control. Okay, and they affect them in some kind of way. They impact them in some sort of way. So let me go ahead and just give you guys and gals my definition of demonic influence, which is an extremely strong desire, drive, or obsession to perform and engage in diabolical cruelty in order to possibly gain a sense of superiority, power, and or perverse pleasure, which is impacted by a demon. Okay, so this can be in an external force. Example for the external force is one can be influenced to do something by someone else or by an outside force, as opposed to it coming from within the person to do the very same act, whatever that act may be, from taking drugs to drinking or consuming a lot of alcohol, to having sex with various partners, okay, to engage in porn, to, to anything you could think of, okay, any type of activity. A person can be influenced. We all can be influenced to think and act a certain way, and it could be externally. In other words, it can be from outside. It doesn't have to necessarily be from within the person. Okay, so a demon can master a person in order to influence him or her to have certain behaviors or have particular thoughts. Okay, so let me go on into another. I want to go into another definition, because I just gave you guys and gals my demonic influence definition, and again, that's my definition. But if you want to, please go ahead and look up and do some research on your own. I want to go ahead and welcome you to do so. Okay? All right. So again, I gave you the example of demonic influence, my definition of demonic influence, and I also gave you all the definition of influence, which is in a noun. Okay, and for an example for that is to be influenced by a television program that may have violence in it. Okay, so if someone watch a television program that has a lot of violence in it, they may be influenced to behave violently, but that's debatable. All right, so again, this is an influence that's coming from external, not necessarily internal. All right, so the next definition that I want to go over is a demon. What is a demon? Matter of fact, no, let me backtrack. Since I was talking about demonic influence, the next definition will be demonic, which is relating to or characteristic of a demon. Okay, that's one definition of demonic. All right, extremely evil. Here's another: extremely evil or cruel. Okay, expressive of cruelty or befitting of hell, something demonic. Okay, that's a definition of demonic, and I'm just kind of, throwing it out there. In the description box below, you all will find some references that help me to put this video together. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and research. I just want to suggest to you all to research this topic about demonic possession versus demonic influence. All right, so here's another. Let's go on into possession, which is the state of having, owning, or controlling something. Okay, that's possession. That, another way to say it is to go ahead and control, to seize, to get a hold of, to capture. Okay, so that's another thing. Now, when it comes to demonic possession, one may view it as a state of being controlled by a demon. Okay, you're being controlled by the demon. Demonic possession, this is my definition: a demon that takes over and dwells within an individual to claim ownership of him or her. Okay, there must be, and this is my opinion, there may be an internal agreement to control or have authority over. Okay, so in other words, a person can agree or comply to a demon taking possession of them. An individual may comply or agree to the terms of a demon or demons in order to become possessed by a particular demon or demons. Now, again, this is just my thoughts. I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, because it is my opinion that a person has to agree internally. In other words, a demon cannot take a person by force. They have to internally comply and or agree to the terms of a demon, okay, or particular demons. In other words, what are they complying to? They can be the gateways, okay? That can be one way to comply to a demon, is to have a gateway. Some people may say that gateway is drug use, alcoholism, sexual perversion. Could be a gateway for demons to come into a person's life. Could be a whole host of things. In other words, in order for a person to become demonically possessed, there has to be an agreement, or that person has to comply in some way, shape, or form from within. In other words, you can't force a person to become demonically possessed. All right, some people may debate that. Topics that I'm going to be going over is demonic possession versus demonic influence, origin of detachment, gateways, and energy transference. All right, let's go. All right, first point. All that is living consists of at least what is called energy. Otherwise, that which consists of the body, right, whether plant, animal, insect, or human being, could not exist and survive in order to continue to exist, right? Everybody needs energy. We're all comprised of energy. So every living thing and being must consist of energy to continue to exist. Okay, rhetorical question. What happens to a human being who chooses to detach from his or her original energy, body, and spirit, right? What becomes of an individual? Another rhetorical question. What becomes of an individual's state of consciousness or mind when the detachment of self occurs? Okay, so pause. Now, as far as like everyone consisting of energy, I think we pretty much all know that. We could not continue to exist on this planet without something, okay, which helps us to exist. That's the energy. We all are comprised of energy. Okay, so we couldn't exist otherwise. Second point, there are some common phrases which are used when referring to an individual who is either labeled or perceived by others around him or her as evil, out of touch, flighty, lost, or crazy. The phrase, the eyes are the windows to the soul, is often referenced while one is attempting to figure someone out, right? When we're trying to figure somebody out, sometimes that phrase comes up. What do? We look into someone's eyes to try to figure them out. Windows are sometimes a part of a building or an outer shell of something which dwells within. To see an individual's soul by looking into their eyes gives others a pretty good idea of what type of energy that person chooses to embody. Okay, it is possible that the eyes of an this is a rhetorical question. Is it possible that the eyes of an individual, as it pertains to the energy that he or she chooses to embody, functions as a generator? Okay, is that possible? Just kind of food for thought in the form of a rhetorical question. Third point. Okay, demonic possession is another label that is sometimes used while making references to those who seem to have become out of touch with reality, to the point of choosing to engage in particular activities that defy logic to those around him or her, such as laughing loudly at the emotional suffering and misfortune of others, belittling the pain of others, right? Just not even caring about how they affect other people, becoming depressed as others around them sincerely express joy. I just want to pause on that one. Have you ever seen anybody like that? Some of us who deal with cluster B personality and narcissists, we probably have seen that several times, but it really did not dawn on us that the person was really depressed. I mean, it really screwed with them. It really messed with them, right? To see somebody else happy. And, you know, I've had a couple of experiences like that. But anyway, you know, becoming depressed as others around them sincerely express joy. And they lie, some lying chronically, or in other words, lying compulsively. Delighting in sexual perversion, extremely poor personal hygiene, spitefully abusing others, including animals, for sport, while becoming sexually aroused by it all. Finding delight in perverting all that humanity finds sacred, chronic masturbation, binging on pornography or cyber sex, and obsessive thoughts of getting away with it. Okay, those are just a few things that some around that person may say, okay, this person is out of touch. Okay, there's something going on there. They're laughing out loud, you know, at how other people are suffering. And I mean, they just seem to really be getting a whole lot of pleasure out of other people's demise. Okay, so however, are these particular behaviors signs? This is another rhetorical question. I'm just throwing out a whole lot of rhetorical questions in this video. However, are these particular behaviors, okay, are these particular behaviors signs of demonic possession or demonic influence? Okay, and this is something that I've thought about a few times in the past. All right, so next question. These two states of consciousness have some differences. demonic possession, demonic influence, two different things. Due to abusive tactics for sources of supply, the behavioral patterns of the narcissistic and cluster Bs are found to be very disturbing by many. Therefore, they are labeled by some as demonically possessed, demons, and just pure evil. This may be one reason why some individuals who have relationships with cluster Bs do not consider whether he or she is demonically influenced as opposed to being demonically possessed. Okay, because again, those are two different states there. You know, demonic possession and demonic influence. But if we remove the word demonic and just have influence and possession, they're two different things. Okay, so the cluster B personality has been determined by the diagnostic, I'll just put DSM-V or DSM-5, pardon me, DSM-5. Cluster B personality has been determined by the DSM-5 to be one who has a personality disorder. Some do debate that this has nothing to do with demonic possession. However, cluster Bs, like anyone else, can be demonically influenced, having been diagnosed with a personality disorder or not. So pretty much, you know, anyone can be influenced as well as possessed. Okay, I'm just going to remove the word demonically here, but I think you guys and gals get the picture. We're all, we're all susceptible to becoming influenced or possessed or owned, or having authority over us, in some kind of way, shape, or form for whatever reason. So we're all kind of, we're all up under that umbrella, if you will. Whether we have been diagnosed with a personality disorder, mental illness, or whatever, we've been diagnosed with, right? We can still be influenced. We can still be possessed or come up under the authority of someone or something else. Okay, let's move on. All right. The gateway that energies could enter into a person's life and vex him or her spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically could be the result of particular traumatic events such as childhood trauma, child abuse, domestic violence, rape, sexual molestation, incest, neglect, and abandonment of parents or caregiver, murder, or some form of tragedy which occurred in that person's life. Layers of trauma and complex post-traumatic stress can be the result of several traumatic events or tragedies that took place initially during the individual's childhood at the hands of narcissistic and abusive parents. Pause. Okay, I know that was a mouthful. However, some people speak of gateways. Okay, so I've heard some people give testimonies about gateways. So I really wanted to include that in this slide presentation, because this is one way that some of us become influenced. All that which wants to influence us needs a gateway. Okay, so that gateway, again, as I listed, those things such as sexual molestation, that can be a gateway into a person's life. Therefore, they can be influenced. That person can be influenced. So that's why I wanted to bring up the gateway. I've heard some people testify or give testimonies about gateways. And I'm going to bring that up in the next point here. But as you guys and gals can see here, there's a lot of things that can be considered as a gateway for energies or spirit, to enter into a person's life and cause them some sort of grievance, spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically. Okay, next point. Some individuals have referred to generational curses, which are full of tragedies and traumatic events, as a result of a gateway within their families, extending on into their own lives. Pause. So some people who have referred to the generational curses, they have noticed a pattern in their life of tragedies, of traumatic events, not only happening to them in their own life, but other family members. And it's similar, such as, I'll just use for example, alcoholism, substance abuse, okay? And I'll even go as far as to say some sort of childhood trauma, okay, due to domestic violence or rape or sexual molestation. This seems to go from generation to generation. That's my overall point about this particular point. So some have referred to generational curses, pardon me, because they have seen a pathology of traumatic events or grievances in their own family and from their grandparents, maybe their parents, and on into their own lives. And it's a similar pattern. Same type of tragedy, same type of traumatic experiences. So this is what some refer to as a generational curse. I've done a little research on this, and this is also one that is debatable. Some people don't think generational curses are real, and some do. Okay, let's move on. Energy transference occurs involuntarily when human beings interact with one another. Energy transference is a great part of the human experience, which has the potential to be intended to harm and to heal. Moving on over to this side here, most likely I guess that would be your right side. There are some people, I probably should have used my marker. Where's my marker? There we go. There are some people who are becoming aware of this dynamic and the potential effects of energy transference for the purposes of causing harm and healing. All right, moving on down over to the left. Phrases such as "they rubbed off on me," "be careful of the company you keep," are two phrases out of many which are very well known and often used by individuals worldwide. These phrases have some relevancy to the energy transference, which often occurs unconsciously and unintentionally between individuals. Okay, individuals who choose to manipulate energy do so for various reasons, from sexual, spiritual, physical, psychological, emotional, to financial. Energy has the ability to mold, alter, and shape that which it embodies and or is applied. Pause. All right. Now, this last point right here, okay? Individuals who choose to manipulate energy, okay? They do so for various reasons. This is true. Now, energy can be used to heal or harm, okay? So people who have figured out how to manipulate energy, they do so again for various reasons. And it doesn't always have to be so-called quote good unquote, okay? Or bad unquote, or bad quote bad unquote. It doesn't have to be that way. It depends on who the person is and what their intentions are. Okay, so again, they can manipulate energy for sexual purposes, for such as sex magic, okay? And they can manipulate energy for emotional reasons, financial reasons. Financial reasons, a great example is going to play the numbers. That's manipulating energy, okay? Or trying to, okay? But I just wanted to give a few examples of manipulating energy. All right, now I'm going to say something about that further on in the slide presentation here. Okay, so let's move on. I don't think I have anything else to say about any of the other points here. They're pretty self-explanatory. All right, moving on. Here are the tools. Okay, tools. Remember that your life has purpose. Individuals can influence one another, however, they are not able to totally control others. Probably should Actually, I probably should take out the word totally, right? But anyway, let's move on. Okay, become mindful. Balance what you feel with what you think. This may help to gain some clarity when making decisions. One has to know how they feel and have the ability to critically think in order to make quality decisions instead of becoming indecisive. Last tool, be open to obtaining knowledge about how your energy body functions and the purpose of it in order to determine how you choose to utilize your own energy. One of the best methods of manipulating energy is to simply have clarity of your intentions, whereas it concerns your actions and your speech. Pause. Okay, I'm going to get right to that last tool because I mentioned I wanted to say something further about the manipulation of energy. Now, one of the best methods I have found personally to do this is to have clarity on your intentions, whether it's in word or deed. Example, I'm about to say go out with someone, right? And this is someone that I am married to. Okay, we're having our date night as a married couple, right? Having our date night. So during the course of that night, okay, we go back home or we go somewhere else and we become a little bit more intimate. Okay, making love, having sex. You guys get the picture. You gals get the picture, right? Okay. So, in order to manipulate energy, right, I can envision or have the intent of deepening my relationship with my husband, becoming more intimate with him sexually, because becoming intimate with someone is not just about sex. Okay, it's not just done by sex. So manipulating energy is my envisioning having a more meaningful and deep and intimate, okay, I really want to make this clear, relationship with my husband. So by the act of love making, this can be achieved. We become closer. We know each other better, so on and so on. So manipulating energy is simply having clarity on my intentions. So by making love to my husband, right, spending time with my husband, a date night with my husband, that my intention clearly is to form a healthier and better and stronger relationship with my husband. Overall, making our marriage much more meaningful. I hope you guys and gals get the picture, but I think you do. So when we are very clear on our intentions, whether it's word and or deed, this is manipulating energy, which will absolutely turn out to be probably and more than likely positive. Okay, so next slide. These are the references, research links, and resources. Now, this is a whole lot here, so you might want to take a little time out, okay, and go through these. But I found this information and these resources and these links to be very helpful. A lot of interesting information here. And please mind the description box below where you will find these references, resources, and research suggestion links. Thank you so much for watching. And I certainly hope you guys and gals have enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more.
Earth, our home, incubator of life. Through our lines of life.